Hi, Principal Letty. I wanted to talk to you today. I heard you express some interest in the idea of opening up a makerspace, and now that I've gotten a little bit more details of the vision, I want to talk to you about what I see happening in that space. So first thing, let's talk about what the learning environment is going to look like. So first thing, when we have large groups of students who are collaborating, I'm going to use the tables and the chairs that are in the greater library space. However, we also have that really unique room behind the circulation desk, which is half used. What I would like to do is put some of those resources off to the side where they're safe and protected, and I want to use that space, the shelving and the 3 computers there, to do more. So imagine we hook up a 3D printer, an engraver, other tools, um, as well as a lot of resources in Tupperware bins like this. So here might be some magnet blocks if students were doing something with geometry. But there's going to be a ton of other resources there for students. For example, as students do things like coding, there's going to be coding textbooks. There's going to be a lot of resources that students can look through and figure out what they want to do, use in that space, or take it back into the collaboration area and work from there. With that said, I also want to have examples of student work as well as recipe books for students to think about what are some of the projects that I could guide myself in doing. What is my role? My role is I will maintain and care for the makerspace, making sure that it is organized, that the tools are in optimal condition so that students can safely use them, guide students, and teach them how to use them. I'm going to be the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. And I am also going to create challenges, and I'm going to try to facilitate different ways to get students to think about what they can do within the classroom. With that said, I am also going to continue to be a maker. So if we get things, for example, a 3D printer or an engraver, I'm going to learn how to use those. If students express interests in different things, I'm going to make sure that we know how to use them and can readily gain them access to these options. Next, what is the role of the students? Students are going to come in voluntarily. There's going to be some other ways I'm going to try to promote makerspace for students to be able to get into. However, when students are in there, the goal is to be fun, and the goal is to be challenging. And I hope that one of the expectations is that students will be safe, students will be self-motivated, and students will be collaborative, and they will support their other classmates in the process of their making as well. What do we need to make this happen? So what we really need is the space and the time that students can come in and start making, see what they can do, and looking for opportunities to inspire them. What's going to get them excited about making? And I think this leads into one of the biggest challenges is how do we get students in the door? We're dealing with a lot of students who might not feel super comfortable with the idea, oh, I'm not a maker. And that's one of the things that we try to use with Makerspace to break. They are makers. So I'm going to try to facilitate workshops or classes that are going to be on like 3D printing or learn robotics or something like that. And they're going to be minor projects just to get students thinking about what they can doing. And then hopefully as they get excited, they're going to take it to the next level. Um, with that said, I also would like to do something, and that is, as the library science teacher, I'm going to be reaching out to a wide range of teachers and content areas and saying, how can we embed literacy and how can we embed informatics or access to the libraries into our school curriculum? And with that said, this will become a form of almost advertisement for the maker spaces. We're going to encourage students to work in these settings, and we're also going to encourage them to think, yes, 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 you can make. And if you come in outside of class projects like this, you have an opportunity to make even more cool stuff, for example, and then we show them other student work. All right. With that said, I'm also going to try to work with the technology teachers. And a big part of this is they're already getting students to program. So now, where do we give them the space to do more? Where do we give them exposure to different types of things beyond Java and JavaScript? And this goes into the potential for robotics. Also, a couple other things to show you. This is an Arduino. And while it sounds a little intimidating, this is how we get started with robotics. These are relatively inexpensive. I think I bought this one for about $20. However, even cheaper now, because they're being produced, we have things like Cduinos. These are even cheaper. And as students recycle materials, we can get things like old greeting cards that have the sound in them, or we can buy a small group of sensors to get students thinking and working and experimenting. And as we get more complicated with our activities, things like a Raspberry Pi, which are basically microcomputers in themselves. The benefit is, though, is that we have both an Apple and a Mac functioning, two functioning computer labs in which we can get students in and we can get them starting to tinker with code. With that said, for larger things like a 3D printer or an engraver, I might try to write some grants, or for things to help make the makerspace feel more mature and that the tools are going to challenge our students in what they use and what they can make. I'm going to look towards grants or donors choose in order to possibly obtain funding. And then also, I want a huge amount of community involvement. So if you're working on this, you are bringing in cardboard, you're bringing in recycled materials, you're finding old electronics that you want to take apart, open up, see how the chips were designed, take them apart, and possibly use them in new ways. So how will I maintain the environment? I'm going to make sure that it's clean, organized, the tools are in optimal condition, and that they are safe for for students to use. And when things get complicated, for example with a 3D printer, or when they are potentially dangerous, for example a hot glue gun, I'm going to guide students and number one, ensure their safety as they use them and the knowledge of how to be safe. And number two, make sure that those tools are safe for them to use, and with the proper guidance about how to use these tools and the techniques to make them the most effective. What are the opportunities, the barriers, and the alternatives to incorporate the maker mindset? I think, as I mentioned, I'm going to try to get students into the classroom through content level classes. If you want to do something towards the end of a unit that demonstrates their creativity, let's find a way to make it a little bit more advanced with a little bit of making. And I think that's going to help students see that. As we start to better understand students and interests, we can better advocate to not only their teachers, to the students themselves, but also to parents. And I'd also like to make sure that there are a variety of activities where where parents see what students can make. And I think once we can advocate, look at what your son or daughter has made, we would love to have them in the makerspace after school in order for them to pursue different projects. If you value roles such as engineering, programming, or coding, and you would like to see your son or daughter explore these options, then by all means have them come in, because they will be building the foundations of engineering and science that will hopefully, while it does not seem like what is in the curriculum or what's going to be tested on their regions, is definitely going to benefit them as they proceed to continue their own self-directed learning. Thank you very much, and I hope this helped. Bye.